To some, he's the most overrated quarterback to ever play the game. Others see him as the next Tom Brady, but there's absolutely no denying the class of Patrick Mahomes. In fact, looking back, Mahomes has always been the prototype of what a quarterback should be, and he is delivering on his promise. With 3 Super Bowls, it's time to look at the 10 times Patrick Mahomes absolutely embarrassed his opponents. An overhyped defense makes it to number 10 on our list as we look at the 2019 Week 3 game and the Lamar versus Mahomes duel. One thing the Baltimore Ravens have always been good at is creating a good wall on defense. During the lead up to this game, the Ravens were once again ranked second in total defense, and it was believed that it would certainly throw Mahomes off his game. However, the kid stepped up to the big stage and completed a staggering 27 passes from 37 attempts, putting up 374 yards passing for 3 touchdowns. Even though he did take a sack for 11 yards at one point, this was all forgotten, and Mahomes left the field with a 132.0 passer rating in the 33-28 victory over the Ravens. But at number 9, Mahomes torched the Ravens once again, this time putting up even bigger numbers against one of the better defensive sides. In another Week 3 matchup in the 2020 NFL season, the Chiefs had just come off a narrow victory over the Chargers the week prior. With a 2-0 record heading to Baltimore, confidence was rather high. However, Mahomes would kick into another gear, cooking the Ravens for 385 yards and 4 touchdowns. This time, 0 sacks and interceptions were recorded. Capping it all off, Mahomes slipped in another 26-yard rushing touchdown, leaving M&T Bank Stadium and going into the bye week with a 34-20 victory. If this score wasn't enough, number 8 takes it to a whole new level and shows the class of Mahomes after a loss. During the 2022 Week 7 game against the 49ers, Mahomes was facing some criticism after losing to the Bills the week prior. This was once again before a bye, and the Chiefs had to make a statement. This was perhaps the performance of the season for Patrick Mahomes, as he lit up San Francisco with a whopping 423 yards. Only a single interception was taken, and 3 touchdowns ensued. Mahomes ended with a 132.4 passer rating in the 44-23 victory over the 49ers. This was at a time when the 49ers defense was coming into its own, and many believed it was one of the best defenses in the NFL. Mahomes simply didn't care and blew them out of San Francisco. But when everyone is celebrating the festivities, it seems as if Patrick Mahomes seems to come into his element on the turf. Number 7 takes us to the Boxing Day match of Week 16 in the 2021 NFL season. Even without the help of Travis Kelce, the Chiefs ran out to a 14-0 lead by the end of the first quarter. Mahomes was on fire and would complete 23 of his 30 passing attempts, putting up an impressive 258 yards by the time it was done. 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions also aided in giving the Chiefs star the 135.1 passer rating, which was one of the best in the league. Thanks to Mecole Hardman and the game-high numbers put up by Brian Pringle, no one even missed the absence of the greatest tight end to ever play the game. Mahomes proved that he is the best in the league again. As Lamar Jackson came into his own in the 2021 season, the Week 2 matchup at Baltimore had plenty of excitement as 2 of the most electric quarterbacks met again at number 6 on our list. Even though the Chiefs would take a loss in this titanic matchup, it was once again the numbers that blew everyone out of the park. The Ravens' pass rush was left without an answer for Mahomes as he put up 343 passing yards for 3 touchdowns, completing 24 of his attempted 31 passes. Ultimately, the Ravens had to rely on their rushing attack as they secured the 36-35 victory. Mahomes finished with a passer rating of 131.5, whilst Jackson only had a rating of 78.8. Lamar would only best Mahomes in the final quarter, leading the comeback and winning the game. For Mahomes, it's hard to determine when he is at his very best. Many point to his impressive games in the latter half of the season. But at number 5, his magical start to the 2019 NFL season cannot be understated. It was the first game of 2019, and the Chiefs traveled down to Jacksonville in an attempt to knock off the Jaguars. The Jaguars were never any real competitor for the Chiefs, but being on the road meant that the Chiefs could have been a bit rusty. What happened next is a thing of dreams, and Mahomes completed 25 of his 33 passing attempts, putting up a whopping 378 yards and 3 touchdowns. Mahomes and Watkins would form a unit, and the former Bills wide receivers caught all 3 of the touchdown passes. With the Jaguars left without an answer, Mahomes pocketed another 143.2 passer rating. At number 4, the Las Vegas Raiders found they were not immune to the brilliance of Mahomes. With the Chiefs already holding a win over the Raiders from Week 10, the Week 14 matchup from the 2021 season is something that showed Mahomes in his element. The 41-14 throbbing a few weeks prior was not enough, and when the Raiders traveled to Kansas City, they were met with Mahomes putting up 258 yards. The real kicker is that he only passed the ball 24 times and connected on 20 of these attempts. Even though he was sacked 3 times, he didn't throw a single interception. And his 2 touchdowns, combined with his great completion rate, handed the Chiefs stalwart a passer rating of 139.2. Few could hold a candle to the incredible skill and passing accuracy of Mahomes on the day, as he dismantled the Raiders' defense. As we count down the top 3, the first spot has to go to the Week 8 encounter with the Jets in 2020. Mahomes and the Chiefs might have already been favorites, but they essentially manhandled the Jets. The Jets had placed plenty of faith in Sam Darnold to lead them for the season. However, Mahomes was an established quarterback, and he cooked the Jets' defense for 416 passing yards. On top of this, Mahomes threw 5 touchdown passes for 0 interceptions and made 31 of his 44 attempted passes. In fact, the Chiefs had so much time on the ball that Mahomes was simply just flinging around the park. When all was said and done, Mahomes left the field without a single turnover or taking a single sack. His 144.4 passer rating was arguably one of the best he ever had. Mahomes never looked in better form, but plenty of credit should go to the woeful Jets defense. Just before we look at the most impressive Mahomes moment, our number 2 spot shows the class of the Texas-born quarterback in one of the earlier games of his career. After receiving the keys to the city, Mahomes had to face Big Ben and the Steelers. Still being a youngster, he had been grabbing the world's attention with a flawless performance in Week 1 against the Chargers. However, his game against the Steelers confirmed what many had known. Mahomes torched the Steelers' defense for 326 passing yards and completed all but 5 of his 28 passing attempts. However, the real kicker came when he had 6 touchdowns for the 42-37 victory at Pittsburgh. To this day, the 154.8 passer rating remains one of the best games he has ever had, and we all know that this was just the start. At number 1, we look at the most recent Mahomes triumph, and to the dismay of 49er fans, Mahomes was great when the Chiefs needed him to be in the 2024 Super Bowl matchup. The game might have had a slow start, but when the time for a comeback came, Mahomes led the Chiefs on 5 scoring drives, which included a game-tying drive at the end of regulation. However, he will forever be remembered for the overtime drive, which saw 2 monster runs and putting up the second most rushing yards by a quarterback in Super Bowl history. Ultimately, the Chiefs won and Mahomes became a 3-time Super Bowl champion, also breaking the record for the first overtime touchdown pass in Super Bowl history. His legacy is already solidified, and being in his late 20s means the Chiefs star is set to embarrass many more opponents. Now, it is up to him to chase Brady in the GOAT status, ultimately becoming the greatest quarterback the world has ever seen.